I have a gripe with DALL.
Give it to me.
I
What do
have
you got?
tried to make logos with it multiple times now.
The infamous logo
And
gripe. Okay.
it is so difficult to, you have to be so precise with what you tell it to do. So I have a buddy who works in the cannabis space, and he's making a beverage, an e-commerce beverage brand where basically you can, try out different products at different brands instead of buying one brand at a time. And he wanted the company to be called Drink Hemp. So hemp is, legal nationwide just because of the current legal system with how hemp works, and it's basically THC, but you can order it online. And I asked it, like, make a logo for this beverage business called Drink Hemp, have it be like a skinny can, soft, minimalistic, all that jazz. And it was incorporating like these words in, like, it said Drink Hemp beverage soft, like, can. And I'm just like, why are these words in here? And by the way, it does not know how to spell. It was spelling beverage, Beverage. And I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, and I kept trying to say, do not use the word beverage in the can. Only use these words. And it would still incorporate it. And I'm like, what the hell is happening? It eventually got to a point where I learned, if you say, like, I want to build a newsletter brand, or like I want to build like this beverage business, it's going to try to incorporate those words into the logo. So what I did, I had a newsletter idea that I'm starting called Turn It Around. And instead of saying, I tried like typing like, hey, I have this newsletter idea called Turn It Around, make me logo. It was just so complicated. I'm like, please make this a little more simple. It couldn't do it. It kept including words I didn't want to include. So I just said, sorry, I have a cough right now. I said, use a U-turn logo, like the logo that you would see on a U-turn, and put a background that's like a soft color palette. And I sent it, and it just did it immediately. And it was perfect. And I'm just like, done. So I've learned, if you have an idea in mind with what you want and you describe it exactly, it can get it done. If you go to it with a very general idea, it's just gonna have a really hard time comprehending it. So that's kind of my gripe with it, which, shouldn't be a gripe, because it's like, yeah, like, you need to be very specific with it, or else it's gonna be very non-specific with you back. So that's kind of what I've learned, and I guess maybe a little bit of a gripe, but not really, because I've learned my lesson.
The logo thing has been a difficult one. Text specifically has been a difficult one that I've seen a lot of other creators kind of messing around and kind of unhappy with the AI, because for some reason it just can't do text. For a long time it couldn't do fingers and feet too. It was kind of like throwing these like weird looking objects. What helped me? So when I was trying to create the personal brand, right, I was using AI to kind of help me map out a brand guide. What it did was, I started from the basics, where I was like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I represent. These are my philosophies. This is what I want to do. What elements represent that? And it gave me a list of elements, like a shield, flowers, things like that, right? Like shield kind of means protection, right? Like if I want to do business consulting, I'm putting up a shield for the consumer, whoever I'm working with. I'm helping them, like, use me as a shield for problems. Let me, stand behind me, get behind the shield, and I'll protect you by giving you all this different advice of what I did wrong, what I've learned, and whatnot. So it said, okay, use things like a shield. And then it said, use things like flowers, right? Flowers represent growth. If I'm trying to help somebody through a personal brand by giving them advice, or, giving them something inspiring to help them, growth is a term, right? So it was like shield, flowers. And then I started talking about color palette, and they were like, well, navy blue represents professionalism and blah, 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 blah. So what I ended up doing was I fed all of these terms, and I actually used Midjourney. And I said, my initials are JK, integrate JK, shield, flowers, these color palettes. And it nailed my logo in one shot. And it's literally a shield with JK in the middle with flowers coming from behind it. And so then I described what Midjourney just created for my logo. I described it to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT broke down in super detail why everything was placed the way it was. And I was like, holy shit, this is incredible. It was like the letters JK in the middle of the shield represent protection, and the flowers protruding from the back of the shield represent growth from within. And I was like, it thought about it that deeply, and I just used ChatGPT as a tool to help me come up with that logo.
Yeah.
So if you maybe interact with it at that type of level, you might get better results, right? Like start from the very basics, keep feeding it, asking it things like that, and then you might be better happy with the results that it comes back with.
And I think that's the tough part for people who are new to it, is like, if I tell my friends, hey, you can go to this and they can help you create a logo, I feel like a lot of them would go very general. And it takes it's like a muscle you have to flex. You got to kind of learn how to interact with it and how to get the results that you want. And I think that, a good idea that I would tell anyone who went to go to create a logo using DALL or, anyone else, is to go to ChatGPT first and be like, I want to create a logo and I want to make it using AI. What prompts should I give it? Here's what I want to do. What are the elements? What are the colors I should use? This is how I want users to feel when they interact with the brand. How can I can incorporate that? And I think ChatGPT will be able to be like, you should use these color palettes, these elements. And then if you just feed that to DALL, I think it's going to do a lot better. So I just had problems when I was too general with it. And I think that, anyone else can get frustrated, and, user engagement can be, very bad if you don't have that. But
sure.
I think if users learn to kind of go and, talk to it more, it can figure out what, you really want to build. Because I think, like I said, AI is so, it takes you very specifically. And if you just provide it with a general thing, it doesn't really have a direction to go. It needs a direction to go.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, I don't want to say the word lazy, but I think lazy is probably a good term to use, or lazy / uneducated when it comes to how to use AI. And I think that's something that more and more people are going to understand how to use it. But so I have a friend that was using AI, and I think a lot of people, when they first log into ChatGPT, they just throw things out there, kind of like what you said, right? Like, I want a logo for a hemp drink brand, right? Or whatever it is, right? They're very vague. They just want something and they expect results to come back without actually thinking through it. Whereas if you take the approach of, I want to build a brand that is hemp infused soda or whatever it is, and this brand represents this, and this. What would my brand look like? What colors should I use? What would a logo look like? And you can have AI help you with that information, and then you can take that information and have a logo built from it. Instead of just going directly to it saying, I want a logo that is for this brand, this, and this. That's kind of the lazier approach that is like, I want this instant, rather than having to work through the flow and figuring out, okay, why am I doing it in the first place? What does my brand represent? What color should it be? Like, ChatGPT can give you all of those things to start. You just have to ask it, I want to create this. What do I need to do? And it'll help you through it.
I mean, have you ever worked with a logo designer or a brand designer as a person?
Yes, many times. I ran that creative agency for a while, right? Dugout Creative was a creative agency, and I had creative directors, and we specialized in graphic design. So very familiar with that. Yes.
So if someone came up to you and said, I want to build a business brand for consulting streamers, let's say like Warzone streamers or something. Can you create me a logo? What would your response be? Would you just go create the logo, or would you, because in my mind, I'm thinking of it I don't think a brand, because I've never worked with a logo designer, one-on-one, but I feel like a logo designer, it's no, we need to know more about what you want to do to create the logo better. Is that kind of the same process that it would be that you were working through?
Yeah, if you came to me and said, I want a logo for my brand, I would have to sit down with you and ask you numerous questions. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you stand for. I want to know what kind of content you're going to put out. I want to know who your target audience is specifically. I want to know where they eat, sleep. I want to know everything about your customer. I want to know all of these things about it so that I can take your brand and make sure that the feeling gets across to the customer. Right? Like I feel like a brand is a feeling. To me, brand is a feeling of what the customer feels about you, right? Like, what does the customer say about you when you're not in the room? You can come out with some janky logo that looks super cool and does this, and that, but if it doesn't really match the feeling that you're trying to portray to the customer, it just doesn't work. So logo design, that's why a lot of people charge so much for logo design, because it's not as easy as just, hey, give me my initials in cursive with these colors. Like, that's not, like, sure, you can do that on Fiverr for, you know, 10, 20 bucks. But when it comes down to like branding and where's your logo going to appear? Are you a video game streamer? So you're going to need to make sure that you have certain things like neon lights, because neon represents gaming. And like, you have to think through so many different things. It's not as cut and dry as just, hey, I need a logo.
Yeah. You know, so I think one of the main problems for new users of AI, DALL and GPT alone, it's like people go to being like, oh, we've heard about this new thing that can, you know, produce results so fast and it can be so smart. And then it gives them something like, give me 10 business ideas. And it just spits out 10 like random, like, you know, cut and blank, very dry business ideas. And it's like, oh, this sucks. And it's like, well, no, you didn't give it anything. You didn't, like, you got to give like, hey, I want to start a business. Here's what I'm interested in. Here's where I think markets are going for these specific industries. I'm really good at this. I have a friend who's really good at this. What type of businesses should we explore building that can maybe, you know, don't have to be profitable for 6 months, but can eventually lead toward profitability and, you know, don't have a lot of startup costs. Then it can be like, okay, here we go. Here's 10 businesses that are going to be, and, you know, it really gives out what you put into it. I think people come into it expecting to give it a little and get a lot, but it's like, it's the same. It's just the same thing as a human. If you go to a human and be like, give me 10 business ideas, they can be like, okay, a lemonade stand, and be very cut and dry. But if you go into detail, it's going to be a lot better. And I think that's, you know, one of the user problems, you know, that we create for ourselves sometimes when using these applications. And that comes with learning. It's so new. You know, I bet when Excel came out, everyone's like, what can we do with this? And then they're just adding things and they can do, you know, covariance matrices and all that jazz. Not that I do that in my day to day.
Yeah, it definitely is. You get what you put in, for sure. I think you nailed it. It'll be fascinating to see where this all plays out, though. I mean, there's so much. There's so much happening. I mean, when I built I can't remember if it was. I think it was the Gary V GPT is what I called it. When I built that out, I embedded into the instructions where it was like, don't just input 10 different things. Ask me questions. Multiple times in order to get a better understanding, to give me better results. And so when I talk to this GPT, it's actually asking me, what's the purpose of this? And so I give it the purpose. Yeah. And then, so I think if we can start to integrate questions, to people, like, I think, like you said, most people just go into ChatGPT and they just say, I want this. And it spits out 10 business ideas. What if that ChatGPT, instead of just giving you those 10 business ideas that you asked for, what if it came back to you and said, I'd love to help you. What's your expertise? How old are you? Who are you trying to help? What's inspiring to you? Like, what if it asked you more questions to learn more about you and then gave you better results? That's where I think it could get really, really interesting. Because I built that with that one chatbot, and it definitely helped me out a lot.